chances are, if you've already had the opportunity to, if you like horror films, you've already seen it. This is kind of a rebooting of it almost, and I would think we're putting the title of the first Omen, and it's a great opportunity to talk about it. So let's do it.
Yeah, chances are you've at least seen one of the two major non-horror films out.
Oh yeah, you got to give your horror credit. You have at least one of the many. Yeah.
So here's one of them. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
Hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for finding us. And loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. Another way you can support the show is the Patreon. Check that out for great deals, great content, and opportunities to tell us what movies we can review in the future. Both Kyle and I are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. And hey, do us a solid. Hit the like and subscribe button. It's a little thing you can do, but it's a big thing for us. And we had an opportunity to screen first Omen last week. So what is going on? As if nobody would know.
When Margaret arrives in Rome, ready to take her vows and commit her life to the church, she unknowingly stumbles across the most ancient and powerful evil, and a villainous sect hoping to bring forth the Antichrist.
Okay, now that we got formalities out, Kyle does have a first reaction take on this, so we want to check that out before he goes even a little further on his Goat Film Reviews channel. Right off the bat, I would say if you like horror fans, there's a lot of lifting, I won't say plagiarizing, but lifting from other horror films and genres that you might get familiar and recognize. I do like the little homage to Possession.
Yeah, I saw that exact same thing too. I was hoping.
Yeah, and I don't want to spoil it, but if you've seen Possession, I do like the little homage of Jacob's Ladder. I'm glad you had the opportunity to see Jacob's Ladder, but you can kind of tell the little snippets of Jacob's Ladder in that, of kind of the what is this coming from?
Yeah,
and it's kind of molesting her.
Yeah,
kind of bits. Very much of familiarities of the tropes of the Omen series, even the beginning of it.
Yeah, because I think the one thing that makes the film stand apart is because you can't really do the same things as the Omen did because there is no Damien yet.
Right, and you're dancing on a teetering of, well, that's the Omen. I expect that. You want something a little more fresh.
Yeah, I saw complaints that it's not enough like the other Omen films, and I'm like, well, it can't be.
You're going to be in a catch-22 situation. Yeah. If you do too much of the Omen, people are like, well, there's nothing new, original out there. If you go too original, they're like, well, it doesn't feel like an Omen series. And I think there's a right balance to it. Not to mention, you're not going to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
Either way. Right?
But I feel like the Omen franchise, comparatively to other films franchises, I think it actually does try to do something unique with each iteration. I think actually the original trilogy of those films, ending with the final conflict when we have Sam Neill as an adult Damien, I think each one of those actively takes the core idea and looks at it from another perspective. The TV movie in the 90s, that was terrible. But the original three look at it from a unique perspective, and I think this one does too. It's almost ironic that it has a lot more similarities with Rosemary's Baby, just because of its general placement in the timeline.
Yeah, that's another reference I kind of missed out. Thanks for mentioning it.
I think that one might almost be accidental, just because it's the way that the story has to play out.
It's very interesting that the Devil's now getting his comeback after being gone, but the 70s, the Devil was prominent in the 70s. I mean, he had his decade with there. No, a little I'm positive. I'm really positive about it. It's a really good, solid movie. If you like horror movies, it does there's some toe curling scenes into it. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of uneasy about it, and I do like that about it. But there's a little bit of feels like a corporate movie to me, in which you don't get that flavor for the first Omen. This feels like it's a corporate product that kind of bleeds out a little bit. I see a lot of things that were made in board meetings of, we have to do this and this and this.
Yeah, it seems like that with some of the jump scares. And I think specifically with the kind of Rube Goldberg style deaths that take place in the film, each one of them calls back to the original film, and I wish that they had done something just a little bit different. Because you have your same kind of things fall death, and you have your same kind of truck death, and you have all these death scenes that are so reminiscent of what came before that it almost kind of reminded you that you were watching another movie.
And I understand when you're working for a movie studio, they get to say what they wanted through board meetings. I get it. It's corporate.
It's their money.
And and I just, if that's kind of going to rust a little bit, horror fans are like, it just feels just like a assembly factory product rather than an indie horror movie.
Yeah.
Understandable. I'm a little salty at the end because I know what they wanted to go to. And
there's a couple choices at the end that I think are a little...
Yeah.
Good try.
And I know what they wanted to do because obviously they want to blossom this for future more I think they want to do a parallel.
Yeah.
Right.
But they don't need the tags.
They don't
you
need,
know,
right.
they don't need the setup for a future installment because the franchise is a franchise. Like we already have the setup, you know.
Of course, one of the big things, the headline is their fight with the motion picture associations and the censorship of not so much the blood and gore that they were comfortable with, but actually they had to cut birthing scenes. And my God, hopefully they can release some kind of uncensored footage. I would like to see what they were so upset about.
Yeah, and I would argue it makes it look even more horrifying when certain elements, like specifically that first sequence where we actually cut away from the birthing quite a bit because there's something graphic happening to her.
That feels like where they were.
It feels darker because you don't see it all 100% in front of you, so it's like the shark and Jaws. Your mind just starts to make up all these horrific things you're seeing.
Yeah. So very interesting. I saw live birth in 5th grade, and I went to a Catholic school for health class.
Was it like this? Or did you have to
You're
take
not
notes
going to
for that?
shock us, and not to mention you're talking about the church. And that comes into another aspect of this. It's fascinating that this story, that contextually, the devil isn't the bad guy.
Not inherently.
Not inherently.
It's
almost
Chekhov's Damien.
Like, what I'm trying to analyze is more of the structure of power, manipulation, and people being manipulated for a cause that are not, they're just trapped.
Yeah. And the previous films, again, did hint at levels of that. I have to rewatch. It's been a couple of years since I've seen the original films, but I'd have to rewatch them to fully see how much that connection plays in. But they are hinting at it in those older films. This one just basically goes all in on that decision, which was one of my faults originally, but I found that over the past few days, my appreciation of the film has actually grown almost every single time I've thought about it. And as I've discussed it and as I've heard more things about it, I've kind of thought back about the film, and my appreciation has only grown.
Yeah. Once again, before I wrap it, I always say work for memorable and unforgettable. This movie is entirely unforgettable. Every inch of this movie is unforgettable. I will never forget. I saw this in a movie theater, and it's a very effective way of a horror. It's an unforgettable kind of a horror movie.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the most unforgettable ones I've seen in a long time. It's up there with the 2021s kind of a horror movies kind of thing. Those things will stay with you. I do like the last kind of reference. There's a little bit of Black Narcissus in this.
Yeah.
And that's another kind of reference. So this whole kind of mixture, if you really are a movie fan or really gonna have a movie nut, you appreciate kind of the little things that you see from classic horror films and classic films as well.
I didn't really mind any of the references outside of the references to the original Omen, which was kind of ironic in some ways. I didn't mind any of the actual references to other films because I thought they actually had a place and they worked.
And practical effects work, people. These work.
How did you feel with that first CG effect in the opening? Because the moment that happened, I was like, "Oh crap!" Like the whole movie is going to be CG, and then it wasn't, and that surprised me again. So, not having this movie screened that much in advance, it seemed like Disney was hiding the reviews, and I'm so thankful that it wasn't what they thought. But unfortunately, they're not going to make as much money at the box office with this movie because they did not market it as if they believed in it.
Yeah, and I appreciate all the aspects of a journey that we get involved. It kind of like, I know what's going to happen, and then you're like, no, that's not what you think. Then it's like, I knew it's just the little trope that I enjoyed.
Yeah, there's enough twists and turns to it, but I also think it plays about with the rule book as you would play the rule book forward. The problem with a prequel is you know how it has to end. Like, you know how it has to go. Right. So it's finding something interesting in the journey because the destination is ultimately not as important.
Yeah. In body horror. I would love to have a sit down before we go. I'd love to have a conversation of what David Cronenberg thinks of this movie.
I think we should do more sit downs of directors watching other people's movies.
Yeah, we should. I would really be interested in what David Cronenberg has to say about this because I think he's another strong influence to this movie.
But you can tell that female director behind the camera, Arkasha Stevenson, who I don't think has done another feature film. I know she directed episodes of Brand New Cherry Flavor, which was a horror series on Netflix. But I don't think she's done any other feature films, and you can really see the female gaze upon the body horror in a perfectly complementing way with David Cronenberg, and I guess Brandon Cronenberg as well. So
it'd be interesting. Another aspect, I would like to see what Spielberg has to say about this. You understand, Spielberg has a really dark side to him. I mean, he doesn't want to direct them. He's on these very glossy, I'm very Disney and family oriented. He's got a deep dark side. He would love something like this.
Yeah, I think we're actually possibly going to get that because I feel like Spielberg is in his I like to tell other directors that I love their movies phase, because we're hearing more and more about movies Spielberg loved.
Yeah, he's on
and
that
so we just need to get him a microphone and get him talking.
All right, you know the assignment. Keep the conversation going. I'd like to hear your comments on what you think of the first Omen.
Yeah, and let us know maybe your favorite Omen film, if it's this one, if it's not this one. Mine isn't the original, but maybe yours is. So let us know down in the
Which one that
comment
starts
section.
with the suicide with the doors? Is that part 2?
I
The
think
president?
that's 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. So let us know your thoughts down below. We'd love to have you. Thank you so much for joining us once again. You can
Yeah,
find all
thanks.
of my film reviews over at GoatFilmReviews.com.
You can find my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere you find podcasts, and we'll see you at the theaters.